Assalamu alaikum. Today on New Ron Academy, we discuss the scholar who drew the world, Al-Idrisi. If you benefit, please support by subscribing and sharing as a sadaqah.
Okay, so let's just take a second and think about something. Imagine a world with no Google Maps, no GPS, not even a simple globe on a desk. It's hard to picture, right? But for most of human history, that was reality. The world beyond your own town was a total mystery, a place of wild guesses and very, very real dangers.
So, what about the maps they did have? Well, they were honestly more like works of fantasy than science. They were just filled with guesswork. You had distorted distances, coastlines that were completely made up, and the edges of the map, well, that's where things got really wild. They were often filled with drawings of sea monsters and scary warnings like, "Here be dragons."
And look, this wasn't just some abstract problem for scholars to debate. This massive ignorance about our own planet had huge, real-world consequences. We're talking about things that determined the fate of empires, the success of trade, and literally the survival of anyone who was brave enough to travel. I mean, just try to put yourself in their shoes. Travel was unbelievably dangerous, not just because of storms or pirates, but because you literally didn't know where you were going. And trade routes? You know, the very thing that civilizations are built on? Totally unreliable. Entire expeditions were launched based on nothing more than myths, and powerful nations made huge mistakes because they had no real idea about the size and shape of the world.
So here's the bottom line. Humanity was growing, people were connecting, but they were doing it all blind. What was desperately needed was a completely new kind of map, one that was built on hard evidence, not on fear and fantasy. A map that was based on the truth.
And into this world of mystery steps a truly remarkable figure, a scholar who was, you could say, a bridge between worlds. And he was about to be given a task that would change how we see our planet forever. His name was Al-Idrisi.
Just look at his background, it's absolutely fascinating. He was born in Al-Andalus, that's Muslim Spain, and he was educated in these incredible centers of learning all across North Africa. And his journey eventually took him all the way to the royal court of Sicily, which at the time was this amazing melting pot of different cultures.
And it's right there, in Sicily, that something incredible happens. You have Al-Idrisi, a Muslim geographer, and he's given this monumental commission by a Christian king, Roger II. And the task, simple to say, but staggering to even think about doing, draw the most accurate map of the known world. This moment just shows you that, back then, the search for knowledge could rise above politics and religion.
You know, this moment is just so powerful. It proves that the pursuit of knowledge, the search for truth, it was a shared goal. It wasn't about my kingdom or your faith. It was about figuring out what was real. Knowledge was seen as a bridge that could bring people together, not a wall to divide them. So the big question is, how on earth did he even begin to tackle this monumental task? Well, he didn't just dust off some old flawed maps. No way. Instead, he created this incredibly careful, evidence-based system that was, frankly, revolutionary for his time.
Let's really dig into how he worked, because it's pretty brilliant. First off, he wasn't just sitting in a library. He became an investigator. He went out and actually talked to people, thousands of them. Seasoned travelers, merchants, sailors, people with real first-hand knowledge. Then he would compare all their stories, cross-check the details on distances and landmarks, and here's the crucial part. If a claim couldn't be confirmed, he threw it out.
And this whole thing, it wasn't a quick project. Just think about that number for a second. 15 years. That's a decade and a half of his life dedicated to this one single mission. Just gathering information, checking it, and painstakingly putting it all together to create the clearest picture of the world anyone had ever seen.
But you might be wondering, why this obsession with precision? Why go to all this trouble? Well, for Al-Idrisi, this intense focus was deeply tied to his faith. You see, in Islam, truth is considered an amana, a sacred trust. Being careless with knowledge is like betraying that trust. So for him, all that meticulous work, all that rejection of myths, it wasn't just good science, it was an act of worship. It was his way of honoring the beautiful, ordered world that Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, created.
So, after 15 long years of this incredible effort, the result was finally revealed, and it was a masterpiece, a work of cartography known as the Tabula Rogeriana, or the Map of Roger. And this wasn't just another map, it was the map that would define geography for centuries.
Honestly, nothing like it had ever been seen before. For the first time, people could see the shapes of continents that actually looked, well, correct. You had major rivers and mountains all placed with stunning accuracy. He even mapped out different climate zones and calculated the real distances between cities. It was a complete game changer in how people understood the world. But the most revolutionary part, the thing that really blew people's minds, at a time when many people were still picturing a flat Earth with monsters at the edges, Al-Idrisi's map was designed to be projected onto a sphere. It showed the world as it actually is, round. No more myths, no more fear, just a simple, powerful scientific fact.
And the impact of this map wasn't just a flash in the pan, it lasted for generations. Al-Idrisi had basically laid down a whole new foundation for understanding the world, one built on precision and evidence. And it was a foundation that explorers and scholars would be building on for hundreds of years.
Just take a look at this timeline. It really puts it all into perspective. For the next 300 years, his map was the gold standard. It was the go-to source for geographers everywhere, from the Muslim world to Europe. It even directly influenced the maps used during the European age of exploration. It's really no exaggeration to say that modern mapmaking stands on the shoulders of the work he did.
Okay, so this is all fascinating history, but what does the story of a 12th century geographer have to do with us, right now? Well, think about it. The physical world, it's all been mapped. But what about the most important territories? Our own futures, our own potential. Those are still unmapped. And we face the same choice he did. Are we going to let ourselves be guided by fear and misinformation, or by evidence and truth?
This right here, this really gets to the heart of it. The great scholars who came before us, people like Al-Idrisi, they didn't look at a world full of unknowns and get scared. They saw it as a challenge, something to understand. They didn't shrink away from the mystery. They went out and measured it. They chose verification over exaggeration, every single time.
And that's the real lesson for every single one of us. We live in a world that is just flooded with noise, right? Opinions, hot takes, misinformation, it's everywhere. And in a world like that, the most powerful thing you can be isn't the loudest voice in the room. It's the most accurate one.
You know, the life of Al-Idrisi really proves this timeless principle, that knowledge and worship are deeply connected. When you decide to approach the world with a sincere respect for truth, when you seek to understand it honestly as a reflection of its creator, something amazing happens. The world just opens up to you. All its complexities stop looking like chaos, and instead you start to see this profound, beautiful order underneath it all.
He mapped the physical world so that everyone who came after him could move forward with clarity and confidence. So that leaves us with one final question, a challenge really, for you to think about. If he, with the tools he had back then, could map the Earth, what unknown will you map now? What new territory in science, in your community, or even within yourself will you have the courage to chart for the rest of us?
Presented and created by Nuren Stud.